Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. And today, we've got a special one for you, Mr. Eddie Saunders Jr. Eddie, how are you?
It is well. Thanks for calling me special. My grandma says I'm special as well, so I appreciate the affirmation. So it's a
Oh,
really good day to have a really good day, man. And it is really cool to be able to just talk shop with someone like yourself.
Eddie always bringing the enthusiasm and the optimism. That's why we love him. He is the founder and CEO of SpeakFriend. And Eddie and his team create data driven marketing and social strategies that amplify voices, humanize brands, and make marketing both effective and enjoyable. I've known Eddie, I don't know, for like 5 or 6 years. I saw him come onto the manufacturing scene as a LinkedIn influencer and kind of take the scene by storm. It was incredible, Eddie's presence, what he grew on LinkedIn, and now he's evolved into running his own agency and doing what he did for himself and the brand he built for himself and his company, doing it for others. But I don't want to steal any more of your thunder, Eddie. You tell your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Speak Friend.
I'm just a proud husband and father, and coach, just trying to raise my 4 kids in the cornfields of Ohio. So I don't think there's much special about me, but one thing that I'm really blessed with is with so many friends, and I've never been short of that ever in my life. And so I try to take advantage of that in a great way by increasing the number, but also deepening the relationships, as many as I can. So knowing this, it's led me to many awesome experiences that I don't think I deserve, but I'm very, very thankful for. It's provided me a family as well as a business that I've been able to now sustain and open. We actually just hit 2 years recently, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Would love to be able to continue it, two, four, whatever it may be. But I'm just thankful that I have today and that I've been able to do the last 2 years. So if my business closes tomorrow, which is not, but God forbid it did, I would be able to look back and think, man, we did some really cool stuff that we really wanted to do. Got to hang out with people that we really wanted to. And in all reality, I was able to do kind of what I wanted, when I wanted, with who I wanted, and did very little of what I hate. And that is always a recipe to me for something that I can appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. You've achieved quite a bit in a very short time. I would like you to kind of get a little more specific, though, about your personal journey. Tell us what prompted you to get on LinkedIn and get on social media, and in some of your initial roles when I really first laid eyes on you when you were working for a manufacturer.
Heck yeah. So my kind of LinkedIn journey started when I was 21. When I first, got my page up and going, where it was this new platform I didn't understand because I was a Facebook and Instagram type of guy, if you will, and had done a handful of different things and always paid attention to trends, topics, patterns, and things like that. But at that point, I kind of gave up on my LinkedIn for quite some time, and then in that point, used a lot of my experience through the Fit Dad community online to leverage that as kind of a brand builder, and then looked at some of the larger names, faces in that specific space, and really just started seeing trends and patterns, and was able to do a little bit of posting on that specific account to where I was able to leverage it, get some free products, get some discounts on things. And so I thought, wow, this could be scaled on a much larger form, not just essentially for benefit of getting discounts on workout gloves or getting a free watch, whatever it may be. But I thought there's a lot greater opportunity here because we're learning how to capture attention. And so through that, I took a lot of those simple tactics that were working really well in other spaces, and then I put that playbook right with my LinkedIn. And it didn't happen overnight by any means, but over just a multi-year period, connecting with the right people and doing some of these same things. And obviously optimizing because the platform was different. I think also my timing was very interesting as well, because I started to see, and you probably saw it as well, this big wave of, okay, people are really starting to get on LinkedIn and really start
Yeah.
to use this. And it's really evolved into what it is now, which was not the same platform even 7 or so years ago. So all that said, learning trends and patterns from previous individuals and platforms, duplicating those as relevantly as I could on other platforms, and then really just optimizing as much as possible. But I know we're going to get into more of the nitty gritty here, but that was really that evolution from, hey, I just started this platform. Let's take some winning articles. Let's use this. And it's been really fun.
Yeah, well, tell me then how you did this for other companies for a while, and then you decided to go out on your own, which is never an easy thing to do. But then tell me a little bit more about what your agency is really focusing on right now.
Yeah, so I felt I had a really full career of working for, a one person of a two-person company. And then my last job, if you will, as a W-2 employee was working for an 11,000 person plus global conglomerate. So corporate America had the $1 million marketing budget. It was like, wow, this is the major leagues of marketing jobs right now. And so after having even a year's worth of experience with that, I thought, man, I see a massive amount of inefficiency from the top to the bottom. And there is lots of waste of time, lots of coasting, lots of misuse of effort and bandwidth. And I thought, man, there are massive teams out there that are causing this big cost within businesses, when I know that instead of a bunch of C players, if you gather a small list of these A players, you can accomplish way more than that said larger sector, and at a fraction of the rate and a fraction of the time. So like any other entrepreneur in this world, I saw a huge market gap, huge opportunity to fill that gap with my passion, my knowledge and experience in a small team. And I thought, okay, I've seen what's worked here. I discerned that as well as I could. And then I applied it. And 2 years later, which isn't the longest amount of time, but it's still 2 years later, and I'm optimizing it every single day. And really what it comes down to is I focus that there's a big gap in individuals having any type of strategy on content, very arbitrary, whimsical type of sharing, no strategy whatsoever. I also notice in the industrial space that there are individuals who either have no marketing representation, or what the representation they have also does shipping or operations or accounting or a variety of other things. So the marketing that they're doing is just a fraction of their time, when in all reality, that's the role that they should be filling the most. And I talk with people very frequently, more frequently than I wish that I did, about wishing they were doing things in the marketing world and wishing they had more opportunity within that role, but they're stuck doing so many other things that they can't. And so I saw that as a huge problem, but a major and very easy low-hanging fruit solution that I'm now really, really happy to provide to manufacturers around the entire industry.
What do you think are some of those inefficiencies that you see a lot of compared to what are some of the really productive things that you think people should be doing?
Yeah, I wish that industrial brands would break their mindset of this is just the way that we've always done it, because yes, that will get you here, but that will not get you there. And I think that's just a big misunderstanding, is that some of these legacy marketing tactics that worked in the 90s and even early 2000s, like it's just they're not as effective as they were. And even within the last decade, with the acceleration of marketing tech as well as opportunities and just general advancements, there's way more things that even one person can do, on a much larger scale. Another big misconception or big miss is just putting some money on some ad platforms and just having it roll. I swear that if like Google ad accounts could get dust on them, I would have blown so much dust off of accounts that I opened a creaky door to and I see, oh my gosh, this hasn't been touched in the longest time, which is a huge waste of funds. And that's one. But then the absolute alternative of we've never done any type of digital marketing whatsoever outside of somebody posted something 3 months ago. That's a massive miss. And we don't understand, well, the industrial space doesn't really take into consideration brand decay and how easily, with as much information as we are being inundated with every single day, how sometimes some penguins will fall off the island. If you will, for lack of a better term. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to completely forget things, but man, that brand decay and understanding, it just increases over time. So people who just think I can just show up when I want to, that's a very selfish position that industrial finds themselves in a lot of cases, because the problems exist from the sub 1 million to the 150 plus million ARR company. The problems are just at scale.
Right. Okay. So let's get back over to the topic at hand, and which is we were talking about the personal brand. We dabble a little bit here with company brand, but let's really hone in on personal brand. And branding's been around forever, in advertising. But personal brand, I think, is a little more of a recent last 10, 20 years or whatever, even more of an emphasis on it now. Tell me about why you think there is a more pressing need for the personal brand today.
I always have this weird mindset that I positively and playfully challenge. Like, personal brands have been around since pictures could be taken, or since humans have existed in all reality. And we could even date it back to Shirley Temple. You know what I'm saying? Putting on the front of these cereal boxes, you see celebrity endorsements. This is not a new concept, but with internet and with these devices, the capability of that scales significantly. And I'm even recommending in a lot of scenarios that with us being so like we're getting all these brands and messages shoved down our throats, and when it's not even relevant to us, but what will always be relevant to us on a psychological level and even just on a spiritual level is the connection with other human beings. That's not gone anywhere, and that's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's why on my t-shirts is B2B equals H to H. It's human to human, and it always will be. We are not any less human from 9 to 5 than we are from 5 to 9. And so when brands are continuing to do what industrial does, and its features, benefits, product features, benefits, that's interesting to us for such a small amount of time. And if the statistics are true, and it's 5% or less of the market is actively ready to have a sales conversation, and anywhere from 95% or more are just looking around and absorbing information. If that is to be true, then I would want to control as much of that narrative and that 95% of their brain space as possible. And I believe very much so that the best way to do that is by way of featuring your humans first. And I've got this crazy concept that I'm challenging industrial brands with, and that is featuring the humans and getting the brand out of the way.
Oh, wow. Nice. Yeah.
Edgy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how to actually do that then. How do you build that personal brand that feels real and resonates?
It's definitely something that needs to be talked about with kind of a two-pronged understanding approach, and that's there's the business overall as a brand, like that does have certain guidelines and things along, but then there's the human being that has a lot more flexibility. And there have been circumstances like at previous employers where I've been a huge bolster to the brand and have been a huge humanizing element to that brand specifically, and it was great because it allowed us to take what was very hard to humanize in any way or to talk about outside of just features and benefits and say, hey, here's an individual that indirectly represents that. Now, where it's interesting, and I understand there's some insecurity, is that the brand itself will worry, what if human does something that isn't exactly aligned with said brand? And that is a minimal risk that just exists within the conversation alone. But you're also seeing other large, well-known brands across the industrial space that are taking a likable individual that presents himself very well, and they're using and empowering that individual by way of just making sure that they're being tagged and shown at these events. They're sending them across places with distributors, taking pictures with their other human beings, and it's not an accident that you see that, if you will. And it's being adopted a lot now in this space. And there are even large presence influencers that exist now that individuals across the industry are doing brand deals with by way of monetary, like actually giving them funds per month on a content retainer basis,
Oh, yeah.
or also exchanging equipment for them. So this space is here, but a lot of it comes from being aware of who your audience is as we kind of rein things in, being aware of who that is, and being aware of where the popular spaces in those specific rooms are. That does help because I do believe very much that the human being will be able to take the message farther than any brand would on an organic basis.
Is there some sort of balance, though, with what that human being is going to be talking about? I mean, you don't want to just have somebody, hold the product and just talk about that and say, well, yeah, okay, we're going to get a personal brand out there to sell our products and services. So here, Bob, just go hold the product and tell everybody about it. Is there something more that comes with building a personal brand than just talking about your company's products?
A lot of times, specifically even in the industrial space, I'm pretty hesitant to like have individuals featured with a specific like product, if you will,
Okay.
because I do believe that takes away from them getting to know who the human is. So like it's great when you have someone in a sales function that wants to put themselves out there a little bit. Like that's an absolute superpower to be able to leverage that. But where I feel the thought leadership play comes in a lot, because that's really what personal brands, I think it's just a new buzzword that very much ties in with it, and it's all relevant. Don't get me wrong, but that's really what it comes down to, because I'm not looking at said individual who represents brand all the time to learn everything about it, but it's a constant reminder that that is an option. Hence why, again, you're in the sales function. It's great because you then yourself are always putting yourself as that option and always keeping the light on, for lack of a better term. But if you are to be one that is going to be gaining attention, with great attention comes great responsibility. And so knowing this, you have to be very, very careful, because at the end of the day, if you are just posting about the product, services, features, benefits all the time, and that's even the majority, I would say if it's over 50% of what it is that you're posting, it may be difficult for as many individuals to latch on in the way that you want them to, because you're only going to matter 5% of the time or less.
Right. Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that, the value of that personal connection and what it does to people on maybe an emotional level. I've read the book Neuroselling, where they talk about having to make that emotional connection. And once you do, people are then more open to some of those messages about the products or the company, or just in terms of what you're saying, thought leadership about a way to do something differently. And I think you've done a great job as Eddie Saunders Jr. with, you got to follow Eddie on LinkedIn. There's just some of the most hilarious posts, great videos, but your personality is all over the place, from announcing at some of the wrestling events. I'm sorry if that's the wrong sport. To emceeing, you do MC for some of these events. Your passion for music, your passion for your family. I feel like everything that you do that talks about Eddie the person, and then when you come on and you talk about Eddie the marketer, I'm just so much more open to hearing what you want, just because I know you and I like you and you're a friend of mine. But then I also am open to that. And man, you've got the insights and the expertise to back it up. So do you work with some of your clients who are trying to build a personal brand and get that out? And then, you know, how do you do that? How do you pull out, even if they don't have an Eddie Saunders size personality, to share it on LinkedIn?
That's a great question. And I believe that the universe, the good Lord, whatever you believe in, has given us all individual superpowers. Now they're not all the same, and that's what makes us different and unique. My handwriting is horrible. Horrible. Don't have me write you a letter by any means. You won't be able to read it. But that said, good Lord giveth, good Lord taketh away. But I've met engineers who are hyper intelligent, but they're not comfortable in front of the camera. And if anything, you diminish their intelligence when they are on camera, but it's easy for you to be able to extract that. Now, you don't need to have everyone get front forward, if you will, because not everyone's just designed to be received in that measure, in that manner. But like at the end of the day, it has been me just consistently just reminding individuals that I am an option. And it's kind of a McDonald's play, for lack of a better term. There are other food options out there. That there are other ones, but you will never forget that McDonald's is an option. And so that being said, within the industrial space, that's all I've ever done. And as a guy who spent personally over 4 figures per month, many, many months on all these different, lead gen tactics, pulling this, doing that, sending this report, lead magnet, funnels, done all that. There's really nothing in my experience, and even after doing this over half my life, that has converted at a higher rate than me being personally connected with someone. And the intent of individuals who come to me for those conversations is much, much higher, because they've always known that I was an option, and they didn't have to show up on my timing. They got to arrive precisely when they meant to. But I go back to my original statement. They always knew that I was an option. And if I was to operate under the understanding that I'm going to be the most important person all the time, and I'm going to go back to my old salesperson ways and make 100 cold calls every single day, I did that Did that for over a decade.
Mhm.
Nothing converts at a higher rate than that human to human connection and being able to establish that and have relevant understanding. That
Uh,
nothing converts at a higher.
Why? Why does that I mean, why am I gonna go with Eddie? Because he's posting some funny things about his emceeing, or he's sharing personal information. Yeah, he's got some great stuff, but what is the underlying thing that's motivating me to work with someone who's got a great personal brand?
One thing I would say without overselling it is knowing that I've made a lot of these mistakes, and as you can tell from everything that you see, that one, I'm super passionate about what I do, and there are a lot of things that you want to be important to certain individuals that are important to myself, such as my faith, my family, things along those lines. And I put myself in a position to be known and trusted before we even have to have a conversation. And I think that that's super powerful. I don't have to pitch people. I don't have to bite your ankle. I don't have to twist arms. I know what I'm doing because I happily give away the information and the knowledge for free all the time and ask for nothing in return. So that when you're interested or something stands out, you know how to get a hold of me. And I do not make it difficult to get a hold of me. So I reduce friction and I just amplify the trust and I turn it up to 11, for lack of a better term. You'll know that I do marketing, but you also know that I love the crap out of my family. You know that I'm a man of faith. You know that I'm a man of variety of talents, and I try a bunch of things and I'm not afraid to look silly. And then I try to have a good time and have fun. And if that's not your jam, that's cool, but at least you'll know. So we won't waste anybody's time. But those who are into that, it makes for a lot of really fun conversations and even better marketing.
Yeah, I love that, known and trusted. I mean, the trust to me is what's so critical. There's a one of the notes here was how to scale your presence without losing authenticity. And I think that, that authenticity, be authentic, that comes around a lot and gets thrown around a lot. It kind of ties back to the trust thing, right? So how do you make sure you're being authentic?
By doing that, by being such, right? If I know that I am being 100% who I am, I remove myself from the fear of being the imposter. Like that's, I remove myself from any type of stress or anxiety of appearing anything other than who I am, because that's who I show up as all the time. And any of these videos, you get to see it. And if somebody's willing to make themselves look as silly as I have all these times just to make you smile and ask you for nothing in return, um, that's not a bad trade. And so I do believe that taking some of these risks and being very vulnerable, I think that's a thing. I'm not divulging all my life's problems because I understand we all have problems, but I have no issue showing you there are way more sides of me that exist outside of my entity. And I believe that that's very important in building trust, because whether you believe in I can do good marketing or not, believing that I'm a good husband, father, and just human being in general, will provide way more comfort than some stats and some this. I can back that up. We have data to do that.
Mhm.
But if I can be the best marketer in the world, but if I'm a terrible person that you don't trust, does it really matter?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've given us some good things in terms of personal brand to think about and pursue, but what are some things you should avoid?
Putting pressure on yourself to do anything that's not you. Because you see every single day people who try that. And I'm all about doing new things, being adventurous, being brave. I've made myself look silly many, many times, and I get that. So I'm not saying don't pull the trigger, and be shy about it. But it's just lots of hesitation and overthinking. And individuals thinking you got to post 3 times a day, every single day. I know people who do that and exhaust themselves through that. And I don't know if it's exactly a net positive in a lot of ways. So removing the pressure that you have to be on video, that you got to have the right lighting and do all this, sometimes just showing up as you are, I think is great. And TikTok and all these platforms have showed us that being raw, real, authentic, and organic as a human being really is your superpower. And the filters and all this and that, we can kind of see right through it.
Let's talk a little bit about executives in the personal brand. especially in manufacturing, I think there's a lot of younger executives are starting to step up to this, and they're seeing the value it can have in recruiting and retention efforts, even with sales. But do you feel that right now that executives really need to step forward with their personal brand and become, whether they're thought leaders per se, but at least become a presence with their personal brand?
I said that like 4 or 5 years ago, I feel like. Yes,
Nobody's listening to you, Eddie.
yes, please. I think it's huge. And I even have clients where I'm advising that we set up direct like marketing pushes and campaigns that allow individuals to get directly in touch with like their not their leadership, but their individuals by way of content that they're sharing with their leaders, with all their associates and things along those lines. But when it comes to a leadership perspective, I know a specific brand that will remain unnamed that leverages posts from their CEO as part of their like digital ad strategy. And it is one of only 2 ad buckets they have, and it converts at a just ridiculous rate, where individuals will be direct messaging the CEO of this company, where then they filter it through, and it's genius, it's brilliant, and it's
Wow.
definitely forward thinking because their marketing team is incredible. And so all that said, it goes back to my original point of getting the brand out of the way. If you're a senior leader of some point and you have the ability, the bandwidth, you should be forefront of said business, and you should be a recognizable individual because you are also a lead funnel if you do it correctly.
That's a good point where you've got your marketing team handling the company brand. Is can you have an executive build their own executive brand with your company as well? I mean, how do you balance those two things?
I genuinely believe there's a massive thought leadership play, specifically with CEOs, where you're not talking about like said widget, you're talking about the widget industry. I think that's a huge thing. So you're not a products, features, benefit individual. You're saying here are trends, patterns, and insights, because it further legitimizes the brand as a whole by way of a human being that already has some authority within the conversation. So I believe that that's huge, and that's a real strategic advantage that some of these C-suite leaders have, is they already have the attention, the individuals who want to speak with them. So if they just continue to speak on the intelligence that they have, their knowledge within the industry, the trends, the insights, the patterns, I think it's a really cool unlock that more brands should take advantage of, but C-suite leaders are just doing it the way they've always done.
Well, let's wind it up with one last question. I can't believe we've talked for almost a half an hour without bringing up AI. How does AI fit in with the personal brand? And does it necessitate now the need for personal branding more than ever?
It's very interesting because we obviously know that individuals are using it for graphic creation as well as copy, and we have to just be very careful, because anytime I see an M dash, I know that was copy pasted, right? And so, but it's good because we as human beings are recognizing. So I do believe the challenge is still on us, because now knowing how we can leverage the tool, I mean, I believe that prompting like is for sure a skill. It is for sure a skill. There is good prompting, there is bad prompting. And
Yeah.
so us being able to leverage that within a marketing space is massive, because it can help us do things faster, but we have to be careful, because if we do try to speed things up, it could be to the detriment of quality. And showing up organic, authentic, and just as you are, is really going to be your biggest superpower and your brightest light in your attempts to build a personal brand with authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard a really good quote about, well, Chris Luecke put something up about using AI to kind of handle some of the things you hate doing, to automate some of those things. And that's how my approach has been. And it has kind of gotten me back to what I really love doing. And so I'm excited about that. I don't know. How are you feeling about your use of AI?
Use it every single day, a variety of different AI platforms outside of GPT Pro alone. Getting better at prompting seriously every single day, because as a marketer who strives to be the best that I can be in every asset of my life as well, me embracing AI is not it's not something I think that I have to do. Like, I know I have to do that because it's not coming, it's here, and it's not going away anytime soon. And it's a really sharp object, probably one of the sharpest objects we have marketers have been given since the internet itself.
Right.
And so I can either watch everybody around me get really good at it, or I can pick up the flag and keep doing my thing. So I love it. And if you're not using it as a marketer, you are not going to be behind, you are behind.
Yeah. I almost think we're past those days of saying that to people. It's like, yeah, I think almost the adoption of it has been pretty huge. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to work with you, Speak Friend, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, very active on LinkedIn at Eddie Saunders Jr. If you like Instagram, you want to see some really cool announcer content, at Eddie the Announcer, but also really, really proud of my website and would love to see you there. It's www.speakfriend.io.
It's a really nice site. Kudos to you, Eddie. You are one of the shining stars in the industry. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. And thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. Have a good one.